All right, so to introduce ourselves a little bit here, I'm Erica. I own a business called Empowering You. The business helps people get the most out of their lives so they can get the most out of their services. I started this business just a little bit ago because I have muscular dystrophy and have been managing my own care since 1995. I've been enrolled in IRIS program since it began in 2010, but I have had been in self-directed programs before that. I was also an IRIS consultant for 8 years. And when I was an IRIS consultant, I just realized that there was a need for people to help with just things like interviewing and hiring and finding caregivers. So that's why I started Empowering You. I also was the director of a company in Wisconsin that helped people move out of nursing homes and into their own homes. I hold degrees in communications, marketing, and human resources. So just here to share a few tips and tricks I've learned along the way. We also have my friend Luann here.
Hi, my name is Luann and I have cerebral palsy, and I've been managing my own care since 1981 and have also been enrolled since 2010 when the program first started. I've worked 13 years as an activity aide at the Jackson Center and another 14 years at Easter Seals. I retired this year and now do things like this for enriching my life, and I speak in schools and community and whatever any disabled person needs me to do, I will help with. And recently I have gotten married.
All right.
It's okay.
At the end of this session, we hope that you will learn places to recruit workers and some ad language that you could put out there. You'll learn about the hiring process and possible interview questions. You'll learn ways to handle difficult conversations with employees, including doing disciplinary actions.
We all know that the caregiver hiring caregivers is really a hard job these days because of the pandemic. Caregivers aren't treated like it's a quality position. A lot of caregivers receive low wages and no insurance. That's contributing to no caregivers available.
Yes, we just want to say that we know that the caregiver shortage is real, but we are trying to help with ways that you can find caregivers. So a few places that you can find caregivers are Craigslist, the Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook rummage sale sites. Not sure in your guys' area, but in the Milwaukee area, where we are both from, there are things like rummage sales in the Oak Creek area or Franklin area, which is around where I live. And I posted ads on there and found people. We have care.com, Sitter City, at different colleges, Nextdoor app. I recently just want to give a shout out to the Wisconsin Respite Association because they do have a respite caregiver registry. And I just recently used those and found some pretty good quality caregivers. So there are some places out there that you can find caregivers. Some of them do charge, such as care.com, but some of and Craigslist, but then some of them are free. But the number one way we find to find caregivers is to just live your life and network. I have business cards that I hand out to people that I meet that I like. Maybe I hired a waitress at a restaurant that I like, or I met someone sitting next to me in a bar and I gave them my number. So I just really try to network and find people.
And I live in a building where all disabled people are. And so I find it easy to hire within the building because then sometimes you don't have the transportation issues because they're already there to take care of you. I have hired friends of friends and things like that. But Erica is right. The more that you talk to people and get to know people, always think about, could this be a good potential for a caregiver for me?
Yeah, every person we meet, we just kind of think of that. Unfortunately, if you are not able to just network and find a caregiver, you may have to place an ad. A few things that we include in ads, I like to accentuate the positive. So for instance, you'll see a sample ad of mine I love to go shopping and go out to dinner and things like that. So in my ad right away, it says, get paid to go shopping and go out to dinner, because I mean, that's gonna catch people's eyes. I also like to make the expectations clear up front. For instance, in my ad, I require lifting for my caregivers, so I put that in the ad. I like to include a picture in my ad because I think then it's a real person and there's more of a connection to people. Also, I've had people tell me that it doesn't seem like my ad can be real because I am, you can get paid to go shopping and things like that. So if I put a picture up, then I'm actually a real person. And then I also include my pay up front because I want that known. I want people not to know if that, that's a good salary for them. So this is a sample ad that I put out. It's a few years old now because sadly I'm not 40 years old anymore, but you can see in my ad that I put out the positives right at the beginning. I put the shifts that I need because I want that on there so that people know what they're looking for and if it's going to work for their schedule. I put some of the duties in there, and then I also put the expectations. And then at the end, I put the pay range. Once you place the ad, I do like a phone screen with people. I usually do a little bit of Facebook stalking. I want to make sure that I like the people and then we're going to be a good fit before I even give a call. Then I'm ready to interview. I ask them different questions to know different things about the people. Right now, we're going to actually give you some sample questions, and we want you to tell us if you feel like this is a good or a bad question. The first group of questions are just general questions. We feel like general questions help you know more about the person that you're actually interviewing. So the first question.
How old are you anyway?
You guys want to unmute?
Is this a good or a bad question?
You guys can feel free to unmute or just put it in the chat or however you want to think, but you guys think this is a good question?
But generally bad. It depends, but generally not so good.
That's right, Lawrence. Was that Lawrence that just
Yes.
said that? Yes, you are right. You probably should never ask someone, how old are you? So what kind of things?
What are you trying to find out? When you asked that question that wasn't so good, what were you trying to find out?
Whether they're, well, it depends on how long you might need them. It may depend on several things related to physical ability to do the job. Only if it relates to specific duties in your job, you might ask age a little differently than ability to lift, endurance and stuff like that might be related, depending on what you need them to do.
Right, that's exactly right, because they need to be able to lift you. So that's exactly right. And they need to be able to bend. And you don't want to hire someone who says I can't bend, because during their shift they're going to have to bend. And they're going to have to lift you and pull on you and do all those strenuous things.
Can everybody see me now? I started my camera.
Yeah, we can see you. Yay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts on that question?
Erica, can you repeat that question?
Can you repeat that question?
How old are you anyway?
I think that is a bad question because we don't want any other boss know what your age would be at your job. You just want to be a really hard worker, just really do a really nice job at your job. Don't think about what age they're trying to do at your job.
Right, you're exactly right, because that's personal information.
Right.
Yeah.
Only if it's relevant in some way, and generally you can ask that another way anyway.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
What question could you ask instead?
Are you physically able to lift at least X, like how many pounds? Ability to get a physical if necessary by state law, depending on the agency you work for. Usually the agency would ask those questions if the agency's hiring, but if you're hiring and you need to be assured that they're physically fit to do the job, or that you want them to stay with you for a while. Well, obviously you won't hire somebody that is weaker and maybe in their late 50s or 60s or something like that, but you can ask the question in a different way that relates to the job so that your needs are met. Or let's say you want to hang on to this person for a few years, or they're working more hours. Obviously you're going to want somebody that's reliable, doesn't have health issues, probable cancellation of shifts, little things like that. It's hard, but you really shouldn't ask age directly is what I'm thinking anyway, even though it may relate, ask it another way.
Exactly.
Right, actually, it is illegal to ask age directly, so you really don't want to ask it. But yeah.
Is it actually illegal if it's related to the job where you have to ask it another way then?
Yeah, it is actually illegal to ask.
Okay, so kind of what I thought I might hear there. Yeah.
Yep. So just like you said, you're going to ask it a different way.
Someone posted in the chat asking, do you have any limitations that would prevent you from being my care provider? Someone else asked, are you physically capable of doing X, Y, and Z? Another question.
There's another one saying that you were offered a position, could it show proof?
Citizenship. Did I hear right?
Yeah, great. Thank you guys so much. Those are great.
Well, yeah, you have to be a citizen to be employed.
Yeah.
But
Thanks,
they provide that in their packet, don't they? Like Iris, I know that the startup packet, they have, what do you call that? I forget, the I-9 stuff, if I remember right.
Yeah, the I-9, the proof of.
Yeah, so that's gonna come up anyway.
Yeah. All right. So another question that we have that's good or bad, you guys tell us. Do you think you have a lot of tattoos? You probably have a criminal record, huh? You guys think that's a good question or a bad question?
Bad.
It's a bad question because it's actually really too personal about what your tattoo comes from. I think you should actually relate say a question in a different way, but instead of saying the tattoos or the criminal record, you should not say that at your job because that's too personal for another person.
Yeah.
It falls into the racial and other bias, cultural bias stuff to me.
Anybody else have any other thoughts?
Yes. It falls into the racial or other cultural bias category where you're literally presupposing something about somebody and attaching a stigma based on the fact that they wear tattoos. What do you call that? Syllogisms, and it's just not a very good thing to do. It's not related to the job. It's irrelevant, and people should be more open-minded.
Right. So in this question, you're just really trying to find out if someone would pass a background check, right?
Yeah.
What are other ways you could maybe ask that question?
What you could say is, like you should like what store do you get your tattoos from, or saying that like as a job form, saying as a job form and ask in a different way to your job.
I might ask, part of this job requires passing a caregiver background check, and just state it at that and see what they say.
Yeah,
because
that's exactly it. You would never want to, just like Lauren said, never want to prejudge someone because they have a lot of tattoos. Tattoos are beautiful and an amazing thing, right? They express people's inner self. So if you're wanting to know if someone's going to pass a background check, first of all, probably don't judge them when they walk in the door and think that. You can just say something like, my agency requires background checks. Are you able to pass that? And yes, Stacy, I saw that you put that you CCAP people before you even call.
Oh, you
someone.
caught that.
Absolutely. Yes, I do too. I do CCAP. Like I said before, I look on Facebook, you know, do a little Facebook stalking to make sure I want to
Yes, they
even
caught that, Mark.
the person.
Is my mic actually picking Mark up in the background? Because it's funny how he said CCAP to me, and now you bring it up.
Yeah. So we just want to do what we can to make sure that we're safe, but also we don't want to judge anyone before they come in. We just want to ask. We want to make sure they can pass a background check.
Is a
Krista,
DHS requirement.
Krista or Dan, did I miss anything in the chat?
Oh,
It doesn't look
the-
like it. There were just a lot of things about inquiring if the person is willing to have a background check done. Like we were talking about looking on CCAP, social media, and yeah.
Perfect. I did see there was like a question on, it said something about off topic. There was something, so.
Yeah, so let's see here. Crystal said, quick off topic question. In Iris, where you are the employer, are you subject to the same laws and regulations as traditional employers?
Yeah,
I
you
think
are.
yeah.
Yep, you are, because you're the company of whatever your name is. For instance, I'm the company of Eric Andrews. Luann's the company of Luann McGregor. So we all have the same employment laws and FSLA, things like all of those things. So you are.
And I might add, including unemployment compensation as well. Technically, you have a what they call TIN or whatever they call those things. So if you let your employee go and it's not their fault, technically, I don't know who really, I think unemployment tax covers that out of the fiscal agency. And then I'd also like to bring up the electronic visit verification stuff that's going to be going on. I don't know if people are aware of this.
It is going on already.
Yep, Florence,
Well, I know
that's a
but I
whole
don't know if
separate
people,
subject though here.
I don't know if people are aware of this, but you can get disenrolled and other bad things can happen because you, the employer, are also responsible for managing your employees with EVV, as I understand it. Is that true?
It is, yep. If you do not use EVV, you can be disenrolled. But we're gonna jump back to this section, okay? So the next set of questions we like to ask are questions specific to what's important to you, because that helps you know if the person's a good match. So besides maybe Facebook stalking or things like that, you might want to just ask a couple questions. So the first question is,
Want to be my best friend and go everywhere with me?
you think this is a good
What-
one?
What do you think this is a good question or bad question?
For me, I'm gonna say bad question because you can't just say that you are best and you can't go everywhere. You need to actually be invited instead of saying that. You should like ask your someone's parents' approval and be with someone close. You just try not go everywhere with your best friend. You just do different places, not just everywhere.
That's it.
Okay,
Go to different places, not just everywhere. That's good.
yeah, so you're right. It's a bad question.
Yeah.
It's misleading.
Yeah, what are you trying to find out by asking that question? You like to find out what do people like to do, and things like are they uncomfortable in crowds? Because if they're uncomfortable in crowds and you like to go to State Fair and Summerfest, you wouldn't want to take those people with you because they would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, like if your friends want to go to a restaurant, or as someone or your friend want to go shopping. You just need to work it out together as a team and make sure that you are staying in that one location, not just everywhere.
That's great. I like the way you answered that question.
Mhm.
Some feedback from the chat is you don't necessarily have to be friends with your workers. I wouldn't want to be best friends with my employer. You muddle the waters between employer and employees, stick to being professional.
Mhm.
And then lastly, I tell my attendant to treat me the way they want to be treated.
Perfect, yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you can say things like, I like to be active in my community. I'm comfortable going to brewer games, going out to eat, etc. This way you get to know them better and know what they like. And so there may be something that they like. You could say, well, I'll do that with you.
Right.
Yeah, instead of going everywhere. If you go
That's
everywhere,
right.
you're not like you're not like your other friends would be born. You go everywhere. Just try different places instead of making your friends bored.
Mhm.
Right, yeah. So yeah, as a couple of people said, you're not looking for a best friend, you're looking for a caregiver. And sometimes it's important to keep that. So another question that you might want to try to ask or figure out a way, what church do you go to, or are you religious? Do we think this is a good or a bad question?
Bad one.
Bad.
Right, because we can never ask about a person's religion. We can never, yep, we can never bring that up. If we do want to know something about, like, if they are religious, if your religious beliefs are compatible, or if they have a religion, we can maybe say something like, I attend church every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. at Hales Corners Lutheran Church. Would you be comfortable attending that with me? Does anybody else have any other suggestions of how you can ask that without asking it?
For me, I'm gonna say, don't say the church's name, so your coworker does not know where the church is. You don't need to know everything about that. You just need to like ask the invitation if you want to go to church with me on Sunday on 9 a.m. or just say and ask a different way for saying that.
You might be able to incorporate some of that into the job description as well. Duties include, but are not limited to, and maybe include church on Sundays or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right.
I get worried about the times, because if you have to go to church and church is in the morning, then you need to have your caregiver come earlier, and that might not be possible for her. So that's all things that you have to talk about maybe in your job description, that some days you're going to need that person earlier for these reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last group of categories that we like to talk about are specific situations to help you know how a person will handle the situation, or if they have backup things in place. So this sample question, do you think this is a good or a bad question?
You have a lot of kids, and are you going to be able to show up for work?
So if that's a good or a bad
Horrible.
question. Right. We would never want to say that, right?
Oh my gosh.
What are you trying to find out by asking that silly question?
Isn't likely they may have to miss shifts due to difficulties, might be what you're looking for. Maybe how that may be expressed is, are there any special accommodations you may need to hours? Are you flexible or whatever? However you want to put it.
Yes. And I've already said, in emergency situations, you have a 6-year-old that you can bring an iPad with them. They can sit on the couch while they're working. If it's something you really need done and they say, well, I can't come to shift today because I have my son or daughter, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you have to be flexible to get the needs done that you need.
So I was looking at the chat, Crystal, exactly, that's a perfect question. What possible conflicts would prevent you from work? Yep, a lot of times we actually even want to just avoid talking about their children at all, because that could be potentially, like a bordering on illegal, because as an employer, we don't need to know about their children or about their family lives or anything like that. Hopefully you're going to get to know them and find out a little bit more about their life, but we are just looking to see if they're reliable, looking to see if they have backups in place for their life and their situations. Just looking to see if they're, they have, if somebody said, if they're reliable, if they're committed to this job, if they're going to come to work. So what's a different way we can ask that?
You could also ask them for a couple business references, perhaps.
There was one suggestion. There was one suggestion in the chat about using the approach of asking the question, tell me about yourself. That way you get to know the individual and build a rapport that allows you to cater around their likes, dislikes, beliefs, etc.
That's nice. And sometimes what I've learned is talking about their kids, like when they're, come in real quiet and they don't look like they're real happy to be there. People love to talk about their children. So sometimes I bring that conversation up to open up people to get them to talk back to me about whatever's on their mind.
So another way maybe to ask that question is, I need you to work Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Are you able to do those shifts? Do you have other responsibilities in your life that would make that impossible or challenging? Just like Crystal said, that's a really great way to get it. Another way maybe is, or another question, if you said, your car is very old and run down, are you even going to be able to get to work? That's not a good question, right? That's not how we want to ask that question. In this situation, again, we're trying to find out if the person's reliable, if they have reliable transportation, if they have a backup for their transportation. Maybe they have a friend. I asked that to someone I was interviewing and they said, well, I would just take my roommate's car or my mom's car or whatever. Those are great things, right? Because then immediately I know that they're a planner and they're thinking to what else they could do. So a possible question you could ask instead was, what would you do if your car broke down and you had to be at work for me? All right, any other? So then the last thing I like to do, I like to ask questions, but then I also like to give sample situations, just because I want to see how the person would react. Oops, I forgot to advance the slide, sorry. So a couple of sample situations are up here. One of them that I like to say is, you're in public and you notice my pants are down so you can see my underwear. What would you do? I'm asking this because I want to know if someone's going to jump up and make a huge scene and just grab my pants and pull them up, or if they're going to just discreetly walk over to me and say, hey, just so you know, your pants are down. Do you want me to pull them up? Do you want to go to the bathroom? What do you want to do? Also, I want to know that they're going to tell me about it and let me make the decision, right? They're not just going to do it and hope that they're doing the right thing. Another sample situation we sometimes give is,
we are eating at a restaurant and the server asks you what I like, ask the person I'm with what I like to eat. And that's very irritating to me when people ask someone else what I like to eat.
So yeah, in that situation, we want to make sure that someone is saying, well, why don't you ask Luann? Or Luann, what do you want? Or they're just silent and they let Luann answer.
And they, a lot of times they'll wait for pay and not wait for me to get my money out of my purse. They'll just assume another person is going to pay for me, because it's physically a little harder for me to move real fast. So they assume someone else is going to take over all situations.
So when, oh, I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
There was a question from Crystal in the chat. What questions are you using in regard to the pandemic?
That is a great question, Crystal. So before I put out the ad, and then before I even interview people or do any sort of chat, I send SurveyMonkey. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. It's a free app. I have a 10-question questionnaire that I ask, and one of them is including, are you fully vaccinated for COVID-19? Because currently I'm only hiring people who are fully vaccinated. If you're not fully vaccinated, I'm sure you could ask questions. If you don't want the person to be vaccinated or you don't care or whatever, you could definitely ask, like, are you fully vaccinated, or are you willing to take a COVID test, each week before your shift? What are your like social practices right now? Are you willing to wear a mask throughout your shift? Things like that. It's a really great question. Sorry, Krista, I forgot to ask you about the questions. Anything else? Oh, I think Mayor Lee, do you have your hand up?
No, I was just clapping. Those are good questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is very far away and I'm getting old. We went to college together. So
I'm the
how old I am.
oldest.
So I can't say that far away. It looks like Adriana.
I'm retired. So I have more problems than you.
So anyway, when you are interviewing people and talking to people, a few things that we think are to make your expectations and needs known from the beginning. Like I talked about at the beginning, I require all of my caregivers to be able to lift me. So I want them to, so I put that in the ad because they can't lift, they can't do the job. So I put that right out there. When I do interview people, I have a clear and concise job description. So I really just lay out everything that's going to be needed and things that I expect from people. And then I also specify my dress code. I don't actually let people wear scrubs because first of all, you're not doing anything super crazy here. But you're also, if we're going to go out in the community, I want it to look like we're friends hanging out, right? I'm not trying to have it be like, oh, here's my nurse walking around with me. And they're not even nurses, but here's my caregiver walking around with me. And it's really clear that they're only hanging out with me because
I see a head bobbing that she's agreeing with you.
Yeah. Well, this time I saw the thumbs up.
I say the exact same thing with my interviewers. I say I'm not sick. I don't need a nurse next to me, so I want to just go out and hang out with a friend.
Right.
In public. So.
Yeah. A couple other tips that Luann has.
Have a to-do list for every day. Now, the one thing about this is I do have this to-do list, but I am flexible with the to-do list. If they say to me, well, I don't want to do it today, I say to them, well, within the next 3 days, could you please complete A, B, and C? And they pick the time and what they're going to do on whatever day. And then if a caregiver decides they're going to leave early or something, or I've got a headache and I leave early and the task that I was expected to be done that day doesn't get done, I say, well, can you come early tomorrow if you're leaving early today? So that they feel empowered, I think, if you give them choices like that. And that's always helped me.
And then the last one is just kind of what the person in the chat said. Your relationship is going to depend on what you need them for, right? So if you're going to be with them, my caregiver that's here right now is with me for 15 hours today. I kind of want to make sure I like that person and I get along with them because otherwise it's going to be a really long 15 hours, isn't it? So I just want to make sure that I like that person, but maybe a person, for instance, Luann has a person that just puts her to bed for an hour every night, right? I mean, then it doesn't really matter if you guys get along.
No. And, we're still friendly with each other, but she doesn't do very many tasks, so I don't have to expect anything too much. But the good thing about her is even though it's just 1 hour, she always shows up. And there's a plus to that because it's very hard to find someone just for an hour.
So once you find that really great worker and you want to keep them, there's a few things that we think will help you keep people.
Please hear this one loud and clear. Be friendly and polite. That goes a long way to make people feel comfortable both with you and in your home. If you're always friendly and polite with them. Ask questions about them, about their life, because maybe they're having a bad day and they just need someone to chat with for a few minutes before they start their chores, and that might change that person's whole day. And then if you could remember their work anniversary when they started working for you, and you could maybe make them a card or give them candy or something on that work anniversary, just to show them that you appreciate them. And I'll try to always have, and I know this is hard, it's hard for me sometimes, always to have open communication, because sometimes something happens and I gotta wait a day or two to the right moment to bring a subject up, but I do it. But that becomes hard sometimes. What about you? Anybody have that hard situations come up sometime?
I'm Lawrence Brown. I do have a hard situation to bring up with my aide about electronic visit verification, even though it's going on. I procrastinated a little bit, to be honest, but I'm going to have to approach this. I don't know how diplomatically to bring this up. It has to start by January 1st at the latest, at the hard launch.
Yeah.
Is she from an agency?
No, I hired him myself.
Okay, then it becomes totally on you, buddy. I'm sorry to tell you that.
I
But
know.
you can just tell her, hey, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. If you want to be paid, as of this date, you must punch in and out.
Is there a diplomatic way of, a little softer way of saying it, perhaps? Because I'm scared of what he might think of me.
Here's my tip. I always like to blame it on someone else, right? Like, you don't want EVV any more than I want EVV, any more than Luann wants EVV. None of us want it, but unfortunately it's a state law, and it will take an act of Congress to change it, right? So you can say that, like, totally put it off on someone else. Just say, so what's your caregiver's name? We'll call him Bob, okay? So Bob, unfortunately, we have this thing that's happening. It's a new law that came in. It's something that's going to be starting as of January 1st. I don't like it any more than you do, but we got to do it if you want to get paid. I really want to start it now so that we can make sure you're on track and ready to go. I know it kind of stinks, and I know that you're doing your job. Obviously, I'm very well aware of that. I know you're a good worker, and I know you show up. But unfortunately, the state is making me do this. Yeah, it's not on you. It's not like you're saying you're a bad worker and I have to watch you. You're putting it off on somebody else.
Okay.
And that's why I asked you if she was from an agency or he was from an agency, so you could put it on the agency.
I think I see that Anne has her hand raised.
Yeah, what I'm doing is printing the information on EVV from the fiscal agency, because they all have really good instructions, and I'm helping them actually load the app and figure out how to get it going for them.
Yeah, I think that's good.
It's a federal law. It's not the state. The state's quick to say that too. It's the feds that are making us do this.
Yeah, just like, say, I'm really sorry I know we have to do this. So
the reason people don't like it is because they're finding out their checks get shorted because they punch in and then they leave and they forget to punch out, and all kinds of things like that happen. That's why we're having problems with it.
That's why we're starting it now, so that we can hopefully work those kinks out before January 1st. So I would suggest getting them on. I know it's hard, and I know it stinks to get people on that. And I know some people are kind of, when I was working as an iris consultant, some people were kind of taking it as they were being watched and things like that. And it does stink, right?
Hello, like, I was one of
it does stink that we are basically being tracked. I don't like to say it like that. Supposedly you're only being tracked where you are when you start and where you end the shift, but unfortunately it is what's gonna happen, and like Anne said and corrected me, thank you, Anne, it is a federal law, and it can't be changed no matter how we want it. So if you just kind of approach it like that there's this new thing that came on, it's a federal law, and unfortunately, if we don't do it, you're not gonna get paid, right? Because you are such a great worker and you are so valuable to me, I want to make sure you get paid. So, you know, always spin that, like, always make sure you're reinforcing what an amazing worker they are and how great they are, and that you're not wanting to do this, that it is a federal regulation.
Even though I kind of feel like the government's using us to do their dirty work for them in a way, but that's life.
Okay, Krista, do you have some more things?
Yeah, in the chat, Stacy writes, yes, be flexible and understanding with the workers. It's tough sometimes, but I think it's important for participants to be patient and understanding with the workers. And then Crystal writes, it's easier with new employees. They don't know any different, LOL.
Right, that's true, Crystal. And Stacey, that's a great point. That's exactly what we are talking about. Just like really be friendly, be polite. You're all learning together, right? And this is not your caregiver's routine, it's your routine. So they're not going to know it immediately. I have caregivers that work 1 week and a month. So, they're not going to remember the routine from 1 month to the next. And it's just really important that you don't get irritated, don't get annoyed, stay calm, and, keep telling the person the routine, and just say please and thank you. And I'm not saying you have to say please and thank you every time, because I assume that would get annoying. And it would also probably get annoying for the person. But just even asking it in a way that you're kind of implying, instead of like, get me a drink of water, you can say, oh, hey, next time you get up, could you please get me a drink of water? Or could you get me a drink of water?
Marilee also writes that she takes her caregivers out to lunch for their work anniversary. And then Stacy added, with EVV, I was dreading EVV, but it's not bad once you get used to it.
Great. Thank you for the positive, Stacy. And same for me, Marilee. Usually on people's anniversaries, I usually buy a little present. Maybe I'm not really a great cook, but I buy little desserts or something like that, and get balloons or something. I know it's not always possible for people to purchase things like that. So even like Luann said, making a card, a homemade thing, means so much. I'm not very artistic, so I don't think it would mean that much to people, because it would really look like a 3-year-old made them something, but those artistic people out there. But also, just like Luann said, really being open with communication and asking for feedback, and actually taking that feedback, because you really do. If you're going to ask the question, you got to be prepared for the answer.
And I also this just came to my head of somebody, if you didn't have money, have them write down 5 things that they wish for, or they wish they could have or do or whatever. Then you could get those things for them, little stupid things that they write down. Like, I like a certain kind of soda. So one day you get them that soda or something like that.
You can also just write down 5 things that are great about them.
Yeah,
that doesn't cost any money, right? Yeah. Like for their anniversary, you can make them 10 things I love about you, to do the opposite of that movie, right? Mm-hmm. And make it cute, and you can kind of do fun stuff like that. So, sorry, we're gonna get on to the next slide here, so we're running out of time. Unfortunately, sometimes, no matter how much you try to retain people and get good people, you still have to discipline employees sometimes. That's when it's not that fun, right? So tips for disciplining, be professional, do not yell, do not swear, do not name call, none of those things. Make sure you're staying calm. Make sure you're giving examples of what isn't working and what needs to happen. And then you're going to give the disciplinary action and discuss the action plan to rectify. So for instance, if you have a worker that comes in 20 minutes late every day, you're going to sit them down and talk to them and say, Bob, I really like Bob, I guess. Bob, you're not showing up for work. You're 20 minutes late every day. If you're 20 minutes late, that makes me 20 minutes late getting up and ready, and I need to be places. So the reason this isn't working is that I don't feel like you're respecting my time and valuing me when you're not on time. Well, I'm going to give you a verbal warning. You have, this is just the first step. Please try to rectify this situation. I also want to say what the plan is after that, right? You're getting a verbal warning. This is just the first step. I know we're going to rectify this and you're going to show up on time, but please do know that if you do not, further steps could happen. And then unfortunately, sometimes we have to terminate caregivers, right? This is no fun. No one wants to do that. So sometimes caregivers don't work out and you have to talk to them. And they need to be terminated. It's really not fun to terminate people. I know that because you know that you're taking someone's livelihood away. But if they're not meeting the standards of the job, they need to go. Unfortunately, I have come across so many people that I've worked with in IRIS or that are friends of mine with disabilities that just think that they have to put up with crummy workers because that's all they can get or that's all that's out there. That is not the truth. And Marilee, I'm so glad you're shaking your head because really there are amazing people out there that are caregivers. And so you don't have to put up with bad caregivers. You really don't. We deserve the same outstanding employees that everyone else has. So if the person isn't meeting expectations, even after you're talking to them, they should be terminated. However, before terminating, always make sure that you have someone else to fill that spot, right? You don't want to terminate them. And then all of a sudden you don't have a caregiver. So.
And never start this conversation while you're sitting on the toilet. Because you may
Yeah, but yeah, definitely.
It truly did happen to one of my friends. The caregiver wanted to quit. She put her on the toilet and walked out.
Oh my gosh.
So things do happen, and it's very, very essential that you never terminate someone by yourself because they can become very, very dangerous for us.
Yeah. And again, though, you want to stay calm, you want to stay professional. I've had people screaming in my face, right in front of, right up at me. And you just I usually say, I'm sorry, we're not going to agree on this. So we need to just move on. You just got to stay really calm. Don't swear back at them. Don't name call back at them. Give examples of why, an example before, you continue to be late. You continue to be 20 minutes late, which made me 20 minutes late for my day. So, all right, well, guys.
I have a question real quick. What do you mean by never do this by yourself? Can somebody give like a small scenario what that would look like? Do I actually have to have a witness present or what do you?
I can do that for you. I don't think you and Mark, and this is my personal opinion, but I don't think you and Mark should be the only two in the house where you're going to terminate someone. Have someone else come in and be there while this is going on.
Yeah, so example, Lawrence, if you have to terminate one of your caregivers, I would suggest if you have a family member or a friend or even another caregiver. I'm lucky enough that I live with my boyfriend, so he's 6'2", so I just have him here. I mean, so he can just be there. And I'm not that I would hope that no one would ever like physically attack you, but you just need to be safe. So just have a trusted friend or family member or someone else there.
So the purpose of them is that witness or just plain safety?
For your safety.
Plain safety,
For your
yeah.
safety.
Honestly, it's for both though, right? Like, let's say you have to go to an unemployment hearing, which are not fun. Then you also have them there to say that you did these things. The same with like disciplinary action, have somebody there for safety because people could, even if you're just giving them a little write-up, they could get very upset about that. So just have someone there for your safety, but also for witness, because you can say, yeah, on this date, I did this.
And if you have no one else, what you can do is open your door and wheel out and have the person come out with you and terminate in a public area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could do that.
This is a good example of how freaky I get about being alone in certain situations. If I order a pizza and I'm alone, I call out someone else's name that the pizza's here and it's only me in my house. It's just to be safe. It doesn't have to make you feel less of a man or anything, because when somebody is losing their financial what is supporting them, they are going to worry about it, so they might start really fighting with you. Because now they have to go out and find a real job.
This is merely one time, or I don't even get past the first discipline thing. Usually I have to prepare myself for a bad outcome. Like if they don't like me giving them the warning, the first warning, and they just want to quit, I have to make sure that I have my backup attendants, or, you know, so that in case they don't want to continue working for me, I have the backup.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marley. Some people just honestly, unfortunately, cannot take constructive criticism. So even when you're just giving a verbal warning, you want to make sure you have a backup. You want to make sure you have someone with you, and you want to make sure you have a backup caregiver in place. So,
and maybe a real nice way could be like, you can ask the person, do you really want to work here? And sometimes if they know you have a backup, they'll tell you, no, I'd rather move on. And that's kind of real neat, because then they've moved their self out.
So we're almost out of time here, but just the things in a wrap up we want to keep in mind is just make sure your expectations are upfront, be truthful about what your needs, even if they could be a deterrent. Care and respect your workers, because they will care and respect you. Somebody kind of put this in the chat that you don't always want to be friends with your workers. That is actually a personal preference. I personally am very, very close to all of my caregivers. They are my closest and dearest friends. Honestly, I don't know how you could do the intimate care you do with someone and not be friends with them, because, you know, they see me naked on a regular basis. But, you know, but that is definitely a personal choice. Some people prefer to keep it a complete separate business relationship, and that is absolutely up to you. I feel like if I am close to my caregivers and I care about them, they will care about me, right? And they will stay around longer and want to do the things I need because they want to, because they're my friend and they care about me. And it is hard. I'm not trying to say that this is the easiest thing in the world to be self-directed. It stinks. It's hard. I get that, both from a person who self-directs and from a IRIS consultant when I was helping my participants. It's a rough job. But just
a full-time job.
Pretty much. Full-time job for sure. It's hard, but just never give up, because self-direction is a way so that you can not only survive, but you can thrive in this world. Amen. So if you have any other questions, or if you'd like to talk more, there's a way to contact me, and I can also get you in touch with Luann. But as I said at the beginning of this session, I did just start a company called Empowering You. We're just starting. Hopefully soon we will be IRIS vendor, and the company will just be helping people with this effective employer and budget authority. So all these things that like are so confusing in the IRIS program, for instance, hiring and interviewing and getting your own workers, and things like, I am actually completely in control of my budget. What? I don't have to ask permission. My IRIS consultant isn't my boss. My IRIS consultant is just my partner, for real. So I can help with all of that stuff.
Can you verify what you got on the screen? I'm having trouble making Zoom text work right now. What are those two addresses? I can barely see.
Yeah, so my email, I'm trying to move you guys to not cover up my cute little logo. It's so cute. I don't want to cover it. Yeah. So you can contact me at my name, Erica. It's ERICA, the little @ symbol, empowering-u.com.
Yeah.
And our website is the same, the empowering-u.com. It is like I said, we just started this company, so it is very new, and we're just getting going. So the website right now is really just how to contact us.
So what do you do, real quick? Are you helpful to people, or?
I sure hope I'm helpful to people.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No, I'm totally kidding you.
Perfect.
Yeah, so basically what most of what I will be focusing on is just working with people to do kind of these kind of things of how to do a interest survey to see what you're looking for in a caregiver and what kind of person you want, and then just helping you write an ad and place it in places, and helping you manage your workers, helping you if you do need to terminate somebody, you know, talking about what to say and talking through the script, going through interview questions and interviewing people with you, things like that. And just generally answering questions about the world of
About your
long-term care.
life.
Yeah, just
Mhm.
kind of helping get a job description together, maybe if you need one, get a caregiver task schedule together if you need one, just all of those things, anything to just really help people who self-direct, just make your life easier, because like Marilee said, it is a full-time job for sure. And
Yes,
so
it
if
is.
it's something that we can lessen that load a little bit, so you can actually live your life to the best, that's what I'm here for. And as I said, I was consulting for 8 years. I do my own self-directing. I have a degree in human resources, and I ran a company that did help people move out of nursing homes and into their own homes for 10 years. So I did all the hiring and interviewing for that. So I have a pretty strong background in human resources, but also just in IRIS and family care and long-term care as a whole.
Could you help me with stuff like, I want a dynamic schedule because I have a very active life. How do you manage caregivers and schedules? Do you deal with those issues a lot?
Yeah, yep. It's all of those kind of just questions of how can I live my life better, and how can I manage this stuff, and how can I arrange stuff to make it better?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
During the visit to Erica's home one day last week, it came to my mind that I have to raise my budget up, because if McDonald's is hiring for $15 an hour, I better get moving.
Stacey, I think you agree with that.
I face the same issue, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
that's horrible. Because you need
And
what you need, and you need the number of hours you need, so it's always a battle.
My IRIS consultant says justify it a lot. And I'm like, yeah, well, if they can get jobs flipping burgers for $3 an hour more, it's going to be hard to maintain quality workers or staff you already know. That's a big health and safety issue for me.
Yeah, those
So
are all the things I can help with. So
how do I advocate for my workers without crossing lines and conflicts of interest and little things like that?
there you go. Those are great questions I can help with.
Awesome. Thank
I
you.
am sorry that we have reached our 1:30 time limit. So does anyone else have any other like pressing questions? I'm sorry, we talked too long.
You did a great job.
Krista, were there any other like things in the chat that I was ignoring or anything like that?
There was a question if you'll be providing your services throughout the state, and if this would fall under support broker services.
I will definitely be providing throughout the state. We have not yet worked out what codes I will be under, because the problem with support broker services is then I can't actually teach a class. So I can tell you that you need help with, learning how to do hiring and interviewing, but then I actually couldn't teach you the class on it. So the wonderful folks at TMG are trying to help me figure out the codes for that. So. All right, I think that's it. I'm sorry if anyone had any questions that we didn't get to.
Erica, real quick, I tried typing in your website and it doesn't come up. I did empowering-u.com and it said empowered you. It's not your website. I don't know why it's not coming up.
Did you do that HTTPS part?
Yep.
Okay, well, send me an email. Did you put the / after it maybe?
Yep, I did the https:// empowering-u.com and smallu.com, and it doesn't work.
Okay, I'll talk to my tech guy about that, which yes is my boyfriend.
Yeah, my husband's the same.
Yeah, thank God for him. But we'll talk about that. But if you have my email, just make sure to email me.
I'll email you. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
It was really great to meet all of you and talk with all of you. And even if you don't need help, please feel free to email me, because I'd love to be able to chat more, because we don't really get to chat that much in these things. So
Are you Madison based or Milwaukee?
We both live in Milwaukee, actually.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you guys. Have
Awesome.
a lovely rest of your day.
You have a blessed
too.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.